So here's part 2 of the letter LAMED, Psalm 119. So looking then at this list of just the 8 words, the first 8 words, first word of each of the 8 verses. Leolam, lador, la mishfatika, lowly, leolam, laka ani, li, lakal takala. So again, if you just read the first words of each of the 8 verses, then try to read them as a sentence. So I'll just read the definitions here, try to just take this as a flow of conscious stepping stones along a path, as it were. Forever, beyond fathoming, no comprehension of the actual scope, suitable for that generation, according to balanced scales, justice, as you do, so it will be done back around. It keeps coming back around unto me, like this cosmic frisbee, celestial boomerang, and there's no stopping it. Forever, yours I am. Mine? The entire world. Completeness, perfection. Aim, purpose, intention. Why does the world exist? Those are the 8 words. So to take those as this poetic expression of this one concept, how do you take those 8 things and bring it down into this? So the first hour here, I was trying to give my experience of lameding. What is lameding? If I could wrap it all up, lameding is not necessarily me going to different authorities and learning what they want me to learn. It's not just me listening to my parents, me going to school, me going to church, me going to college, me going to the internet, listening to scientists about stuff that they have discovered, reading history books. Now, there certainly can be some benefit to all those things, or culturally, me watching television and movies. I'm trying to address each one of the various things that teach. I can look at nature. As a matter of fact, let me offer nature as a different capacity than any of those other things. In that, if I was going to, that whole list from being small, you know, there's certainly personal experience and environment, those things you learn from, but then your parents, your school, your church, television and movies, college, which is a whole different type of education, and then scientists and history and you might call it governmental authorities. Those are all input, none of which are necessarily true. But where's the truth to be found? Well, I'm looking out this window and I see trees and sky. Well, that's nature. And I can register in my own mind and my own heart that I believe that there's something in nature which is true. It's not always true. In that, nature as it was originally made is true, but I know that human beings have manipulated genetic science, scientists of genetically manipulated DNA and come up with hybrid stuff that looks like nature, which is not nature. I don't trust that. It's a lie. It's a fake food, fake nature, fake clouds. But the way Yahweh built it, the way that Elohim made nature, that's trustworthy. Well, see, that's the Yod. That's the hand of the Creator making nature. And he gave us his Torah. Yeah, but the lying pen of the scribes, I've heard people talk about that. And it's like, yeah, okay, they've lied about what it says, what it means, and how they wrote it, and how to even say it. But the real expression of the Creator, well, that's the hay of the Yod. The Vav is number 6. It's the masculine suffix is the Vav, means he or it. And I can say, I appropriate the Vav to the Messiah, Mashiach, who is Yahusha, not the JC, not the phantom, the God-man thing, that the real guy who is himself is the Gospel of John, chapter 1, the Torah, the word made flesh. That guy, that Vav, he's believable. And then he said that he'd give us his Ruach to walk out righteousness, the Yashar Derek, the straight path of. So that's the Hey of the Vav, but the Hey of the Yod. So that's Yod Hey Vav Hey. So I can say encrypted into the spelling of the Tetragrammaton sacred name Yod Hey Vav Hey is what he built, the truth, what he built, and thus is expressed and can be read, can be apprehended in nature, in the Torah, in the Mashiach, and by the Ruach in me. These are the four mechanisms by which to apprehend, measure, contain the truth usefully for a productive good, which would be tovness, tet vav bet. And to be able to do that is technically the answer to the meaning of the word shalom, shin lamed vav mem. So I could look at shin lamed vav mem, and Frank Sequins had talked about studying the meaning of the letters a bit, Hebrew word pictures, and he made this little chart. I've seen it, people have it. Shin, teeth and fire, so at that which destroys and consumes. Lamed, that's the authority. Vav, well, that's a nail or hook, so that means to build or to attach. And mem, that's water, which is jiggly and that's chaotic. So shin lamed vav mem can be read as destroy the authority that establishes chaos. How do you do that? Bind the devil in Jesus' name, claim the blood, and stop the devil from being able to do anything. Then you have peace. See, that's a way of thinking. Now it's guided by that one way of interpreting the meaning of the letters. And is there any truth to it? Maybe there is. If you knew the correct procedure for how to bind the devil, claim the power of the blood, take authority over the demon hordes, and blaze a trail where there's no chaos, would you have shalom? Well, probably. I can imagine that you would. But that's just one way to read the letters. I'm trying to exercise this experience of lameding. That's what I'm trying to show by all this stuff here, and then get into what David is talking about here in just a moment. Let me give a different value to the letters shin lamed vav mem. If I say shin is the monogram letter, the one single letter monogram of El Shaddai, Aleph Lamed, El, that's translated God, and then Shin Dalet Yod, Shin, that's that letter. Dalet Yod as a word, which means sufficiency. Die, it's enough, it's sufficient, it's good. Shin Dalet is a female breast, but it's also a demon. It also is a chest of drawers. Well, what do you put in a chest of drawers? Whatever you got, whatever you need. There's a way of organizing your clothes or stuff, tools, whatever it might be. Like in a shop, you know, have a chest of drawers of different than you might find in a bedroom. But the point is, the organization of everything in such a way that shin can be a prefix letter that means that which is contained by or belongs to. Dalet Yod is sufficiency. And the female, you might say, business is to tend the young, to bear and then tend to feed the young. While the male is planting the seed and then securing the provisions to bring home to, that's the whole family structure of just man's life on earth. That's just what it looks like. That's wrapped up in Shaddai, because Shin Dalet being, it's also the word for a field. If you have an open field, that's a shad. What's that got to do with the feminine figure? Well, it means if you have a field growing grain and then you just harvest it all and chop it down, the overcome destroyed field where nothing's growing, that's the picture of shad. So it's an open field that's been wiped out, harvested, destroyed. So the word Shaddai or El Shaddai is generally translated Almighty, meaning the one who just has destroyed all opposition, just wiped everything out. That's what's meant by Almighty. Well, if that's what's meant by the letter Sheen, not just the destroyer, but the provider of all benefit, it's him in particular. It's El Elyon, the Most High. It's Yahweh Zavot, the master of legions, the one who commands all the military forces. He who we are under his command. So it's a relationship between knowing who he is and the fact that I'm going to listen to everything he said. Well, that's the letter Lamed. That means teach and learn. Teach and learn what? Everything he said so I can do what he said. What's the Vav? The Vav is a connector, but it's a man. Yeah, it's a nail or a hook. It's also some type of a bridge. A bridge to what? Mem. What's mem? Chaos. Water's rippling and movement. Any agitation, you'll see water move. Yeah, but if there's no agitation, water's still. Maybe that's what it's saying. What is water? Water was the first condition of the planet, where then he separated land and put in plant life. So water is this place of incubating the whole kingdom. If I lamed Sheen's essence, that's the bridge to incubating Mem, his desires. What's his desire? Why did he build this place anyway? Well, it's just those who say that this is random evolution and it's just here, then we're gone, are ignoring or intentionally subliminally trying to destroy humans' ability to find purpose. And there's people that have studied that all out, and that's a whole nother, you might say, philosophical treatise on why does the concept of evolution even exist? Who's promoting that concept for what reason? I won't even go there. That's a whole giant subject. But here's the point. If you thought that you had a reason to exist, a reason to be here, and a time, this is a very pertinent time that you are here on this planet. This is now, you are the generation. I remember being a kid, I was seeing all this stuff going on in the 60s and saying, gee, I wonder what the world's going to look like when those guys who are now the hippies or the Jesus movement or the, whatever that was, what's the world going to look like when they're in control, they're in charge of making the decisions, running the economy, running the military, and all the ones they're protesting against are gone, either died off or in rest homes or wherever, but now they're running the show. And it's like, can you tell much of a difference? Well, there's a difference, but not necessarily for the better. But those guys were supposed to be the better. The phrase dor lador, dalet resh, or in this case, David is using lamed dalet resh and then vav dalet resh, is a generation after generation. But it's not just a generation. What's dalet resh? Dar. It's like the spiraling, because it continues one after the next, after the next, after the next. And dalet resh has to do with a circuit or a circular. It's to be in a queue, standing in line. Now it's your time. You're up to bat. You're in this rotation, and now it's your turn to engage. It's your turn to make the decisions. It's your turn to affect the culture. It's now the ball's in your hands. Are you going to toss it to somebody else? Are you going to shoot? Are you going to run? It's now yours. That's what dar lador basically means. Just translated generation after generation. Oh, it just goes on. Again, what I'm saying is, if you look at shalom, who's doing the shaloming? If this is dar lador and you're the one now sitting there reading this, you is. Use the dar right now. The dalet resh. Well, dalet is, see, if dalet's a door, what's a door? It's a presentation of an option. You come to a T intersection, you can turn right or left. You can't keep going straight. You can sit there, but you can back up and go back the other way. But it's like you're faced with an opportunity of a decision to dalet noon, dan, to decide. What's your determination? Starts with a D, ends with an N. Well, I'm going to choose life or choose death, or I'm going to pick up Yahweh's stuff, or I'm going to ignore Yahweh's stuff. And then when he says, if you do this, this is what's going to happen. If you do that, this other thing is going to happen. You guys get to choose. Talking last week about the predestination? Is what's going to happen mapped out, that it must, we have no choice, or is there free will? Can either thing happen? And so as I read the scripture, it looks like we have free will. We have Yahweh saying, I'm telling you, the guys, the way it works. Whatever you do is coming back on you. You do evil, evil's coming back. You do good, good's coming back. So when he says, I'm telling you how to change the world, start doing good. It's kind of like, I equate that to, you look at the face in the mirror and it's like, I don't like that face. How do you change the face in the mirror? Change the face in the mirror. Change your face in the face in the mirror. That's the way it works. That seems the way he built the universe. Yod, or Resh Aleph Yod, is the word for mirror, or to see what's in the mirror. And he gave Israel the distinct position to change the world. And then you read these verses in Isaiah and Jeremiah, and he says, my people are stupid. They don't even seem to know me. They don't know who I am or what I'm about or what I even said. They go after other gods. I gave them the best, and they go after the nothings. And it goes on and on and on. See, once you realize what you're reading, and once you're trying to see the truth of the matter, you realize, well, this is what David's talking about. David saw what was really written in the text, even if nobody else ever did. And David said, I love this stuff, because when you said mishpat, it means whatever I do is coming back around. If I don't like the circumstances, I change my face, and the mirror, the face in the mirror changes instantly. If I do righteousness, I get victory, guaranteed. Evil got nothing. They're out of the game. And so David says, when you gave me a het kuf, a law, and I imitate what you said, I win. It's all mine. I have Yod Kaf Lamed, power and capacity to prevail and contain it all. All I need to do is get it straight in my head. And then you hear about these people talking about frequency and resonance and vibration. And it's like, if you think the right thoughts, if you have the right picture, if you line up your heart and your soul, then you attract those, and there's new age wackies. No, that's the way it works. If you wrap your mind and heart around Yahuwah's vibe, resonance, frequency, you attract his kingdom. What did it take for Elijah to see the flaming chariots full of angels around the city and the hills around the enemy? It's like, those guys got no idea what's going on. I sense it. I see it. And he said, open my eyes to my servant, please. Yahweh, open my servant's eyes that he can see. And the servant saw these things. Did Elijah see it? Doesn't necessarily say he did, but he had the sense. He at least knew. How do we picture the reality of Yahuwah and his kingdom so that when we read these words, we go, I got no conflict with, if he gave a command, I'm going to keep the command, because as soon as I keep the command, his jurisdiction reigns, his throne. Remember, his throne is established on Mishpat and Zadokah. What's Mishpat? Balancing of scales. If he gave a mitzvot and we keep the mitzvot, his throne is there. No opposition can stand when the throne of El Shaddai is at hand. So how do you do spiritual warfare? Plead the blood, whack the devil. Wait a minute. If you're not keeping Shabbat, you think you got any authority? That's not the way it works. If you're disregarding what Yahweh said, do you think that the demons got to run? Oh, that's what you're told. Oh, that's what you see manifested. Somebody comes up who knows nothing, who cares nothing about what Yahweh said or what he commanded, and they're going to say this and plead that, and they're going to command this, and the devils and the demons are going to jump and scream and run in different directions and go where? I remember once hearing a story a long time ago, somebody who was doing spiritual warfare and say, oh, well, I just throw the demons into the ocean. I command you to come out of this person, and I throw you in the ocean in Jesus' name. Yeah. And the person seems clean. Well, I met somebody who used to operate submarines. It's like, what the heck? Don't throw them in the ocean. We're down there working. What? Oh, sorry about that. Oh, gosh. Wait a minute. How does this stuff work? And I heard people say, oh, you must bind them in the name of the. Really? Let's look at what David said about a few things here. So the LAMED section, starting with verse 89, Leolam Yahweh, Debarka Natzav Bashamayim. Forever Yahweh, your word is Nun Zadi Bet in the heavens. Well, what's Nun Zadi Bet? Well, the interesting thing is Nun means to engage in the action, to turn something on, flip the switch, as it were. Zadi Bet. Well, remember when he says he's Yahweh's Avot, that's Zadi Bet, ALEF-TAV. So, hey, look, those two letters of Nun Zadi Bet is just like Zadi Bet, ALEF-TAV. So what's Zadi Bet? Turtle. He's the one who noons the turtles, activates the turtles. Zadi Bet Aleph is army. Zadi Bet Aleph Vav Tav is plural, so an army of activated turtles. See, that's if you just look at the words and try to. It's also a covered wagon. Well, what's a covered wagon? Well, it's different than a regular wagon because it's got a cover on it. It's like a back. Well, what's a turtle? It's got a back compared to a lizard. So you got to think, how does this work? I'm trying to show you how to lamed, how to think, how to navigate, how to meditate, how to ponder the spelling. But if you look at what Nun Zadi Bet is, it's a knife handle, like to stick a knife in. Here's a sword to stick it in, and it's that which is stuck in and fixed. But Nun Zadi is also blossomed flowers. It's something substituted in mathematics. X plus 2 equals 4. X must be 2. So I'm going to substitute the variable X with the number 2. In this case, it must equal to replace this with that and fix it and say, there, that's Zadi Bet. Nun Zadi is where you get the word for Nazi, hawk, flower. It's something that's flourishing. That's the Zadi, because the Nun is just the action of the Zadi happening. So by looking at the spelling of the words, it reinforces why that word is spelled that way. What is the Zadi? The picture of the resurrection, a picture of a flower blossom, a picture of a hawk in the sky, and all the little camouflaged feather pattern. Well, what's Bes Shemayim? In the heavens, because Bet is the prefix letter in or with, and that in Shemayim, Shin Mem, Yod Mem is the plural, but that's the heavens. But see, there's another way to read that. Bet Shin Mem, Basham can mean sweet odor, fragrant, perfumed. Well, then the Natzav is like, this is like an aromatic bouquet of flowers. What is? Your word, Yahweh, forever. That's a different way to read the sentence. Leolam, but Lamed, Ayin, Vav, Lamed, Mem. Oh, Leolam, that means forever or beyond the horizon, that's incalculable. The true essence, Yahuwah, of the aromatic beauty of your bouquet, we're not even equipped to fully appreciate yet. Yeah, but Ayin, Vav, Lamed means baby-like, to suck, to be a suckling, to act wrongfully. Wait a minute. Why are we acting wrongfully? Because we don't know what's really going on. A baby just knows how to get something from the shad. That's all. It's just wired to program as an elemental first step. And then you teach it. You teach it to suck from a straw, to drink from a cup, to use its hands, to. That's the way this place is built. So if I say, I don't know how to, Yahweh, to appreciate your stuff yet, all I know is that you're the source of whatever I need. Will you please develop my sense of appreciating the bouquet, the aromatic, as well as the color, as well as the form, as well as the inner biological functionings of the flowers and the pollinators. And there's more and more. It goes beyond just the surface. That's Leolam. And he said, it's in your word. You see, he's equating the status of a baby just starting, and the pretty flower to, hey, there's Yahweh's word. And it just, the more you look, the more you see, the more you can appreciate, the more you can develop your ability to appreciate, the more you'll get out of it. Verse 90, Lador Dor, generation after generation. If it's your turn, last time my parents were at the helm. Before that, my grandparents. Before that, the great-grandparents. And what were they doing? Did they know this stuff? They didn't care about this stuff. They were taught this stuff didn't matter. They were given fake news. They were given fake wars. They were given fake science and fake education. And besides that, they were not at 2010 yet. So they were still within the confines of the 2,730-year curse. I'm not going to blame them. I'm not going to criticize them. Let's say they all did the best they could. They were within the confines of the 2,730-year curse. But now that it's after 2010, we got a whole nother thing available to us at this generation, standing at the helm here and now, that they never had, that they coulda, woulda, shoulda hoped for if they knew, but was inaccessible to them. But we don't have that excuse, nor that do we have that liability. The next word, amuntaka, aleph mem vav nun. Well, aleph mem nun is amen, so be it. But it also is, Abraham had hey aleph mem nun, aleph mem vav nun, aleph mem yod nun, mem yod nun, mem nun. It's all this stuff regarding mem nun, which we'll get to next week, the next 2 weeks. But it has to do with being faithful to what? To the Kaf Lamed, to what's taught, what's learned. Well, if somebody wasn't taught about this stuff, yeah, but we're talking about it now. Yeah, but they didn't have access. In fact, a few hundred years ago, it was illegal to speak any of the scripture in English. You could be put to death. You couldn't have the Bible in your language. If you had it in Greek, Latin, or even German, that was illegal. But Hebrew, even now, Hebrew, who cares about the Hebrew, much less the Paleo-Hebrew. But to be faithful and responsible, trusting what you were allowed to be taught, that's basically Amunah. Then here's this word, Kaf Vav Nun Nun Tav. How would you pronounce that? K-U or K-O-N-N. That's Conan. Remember that movie, Conan the Barbarian? Conan, because the word means yes, stalwart, true, verily, regulated, tuned, adjusted, directed, aimed, fixed, secured, placed with purpose. The word tav, kaf, vav, nun, hey, see different prefix, different suffix, means arrangement, character, disposition, quality. Planning, design, arranged, established, preparation, characteristic, and astronomy. In other words, all the stars are put exactly where they are for a very particular reason, if you knew how to read it. Just like the design of the Mishkan pattern, the tabanit, this is the takona, same root structure of the word. And you realize, well, that's the way the language is built. That's the way the kingdom of heaven operates, by a veritably mechanical, particular, intentional, functional design pattern. Aleph Resh Zadi, well, that's the word earth, but Aleph means I will, and Resh Zadi, rats, means I will run. I'm going to run this. So David, having become aware of the very particular design of the way everything works, he says, I'm going to run with my heart proactively on purpose, because this is the sport. This is the game. And the last word, Vav Tav Ayin Mem Dalet. Well, Ayin Mem Dalet means it stands fixed, established, founded, placed, entrenched, built in. Mem Dalet, that word where we get mode or tailor-made, means stretched to fit or conform to the regulation. Ayin Mem means with or people. Amad Basodi. Remember Jeremiah 23? These people talk, remember, I got a word from the Lord. He says, if I ever hear anybody say that again, you guys are going to get it. You're in big trouble. Never want to hear anybody say, Masa Yahweh, everybody got a word from the Lord. Better you should say, what is his Amad Basodi? That's the word Amad right here. And Basodi is where you get the word sod or foundation or secret. The foundation is buried so that you can place something that won't fall over. That's what this is talking about. As far as I can see, it's the meaning of this stuff. It's the meaning of the letters and the way the universe is built. So you could look at this and say, it's now your turn to be faithful to the reality of understanding the way it's all built and run with a heart of vigorous. That's the word mem aleph dalet, where you get MAD, madly, meldeka, with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your meldeka, with all your, it's like David was lit up with the passion of, like, I see it, I get it, I want to go. How do I do this? How do I do it more? How do I do it better? This is finally the reality, finally the truth. I could look at Dalet Resh and there was a generation, but hey, Dalet Resh, Hadar, very similar with Aleph Dalet Resh, where we get adore, like I adore something, it's an adornment. Hey, Dalet Resh, to publish a new edition, to adorn, honor, glorify, majestic, return, repeat, similar to Teshuv, splendor, citrus fruit, and then hey, Dalet Resh, hey, rising fame, eminence. You see, so it's not just generation after generation. It's like it's your turn to turn this into what it should always have been, that every generation before us failed to capitalize on. Verse 91, La mishfot ika amad, there's that word again, hayom, today, ki hakal, there's that hey kaf lamed, was all complete, the totality of obedika. Well, obed, where we get the word Obadiah and obedience, means worship and serve, to be at work. Mishfat. Mashfati would be my mishfatika, but it starts with a lamed. So basically saying, according to what you let me realize about the balancing of scales. Mishfat, that everything I do is going to come back on me. What you told me is if I do evil, evil's coming back. If I do good, good's coming back. If I do what you commanded, I get victory. Zadika, deliverance and salvation and justice. All I got to do is do what you said. So tell me what you said. Let me know what you said. He was nailed to the cross and don't do what he said. That's the voice of the enemy telling us not to capitalize and invest in this economy. But this is how the universe is built. Amad. It stands confirmed, locked in. This day, like every day, Hayom ki hakal. The everything, all the entire matter, the whole deal is about, I am your servant, I do what you say, and then it comes back. See, David's laying out here, right here in verse 91, the understanding of this is the way the kingdom of heaven, works. For Israel, well, for everybody, but Israel is given the knowledge very specifically to be the agent involved in this action. We're spiritual Israel. We don't have to do anything, he said. Jesus did it for us. Well, if you believe that, then you ride on that. But this is what David saw. Verse 92, Luli, Lamed, Vav, Lamed, Yod. You know what a lulav is? It's to take the four species and you hold them in Sukkot and you spin around, you dance. It's where we get the word for night, Lila, Lamed Yod, Lamed Hey, but Lamed like hallelu, like to profane and vile and empty something out. Het Lamed. This Lamed is a spiral shape, but here that's Lamed Vav, Lamed Yod. Lamed connected to Lamed, Yod is my, Lamed Yod is, this is belonging to me. You look it up in the dictionary, it means playpen, spiral staircase. So it's basically a gymnasium of acrobatics. This is the playing field, the arena of the Zachakadan. To make sport out of the playing of words, because the next word is Torteka, your instructions of Torah, is my spiral staircase of playing around. Verse 92. Shasha, Shinayan Yod. It's my delight. But Shinayan is also salvation. Ayin Shin. So this is Shin, Ayin Yod. See, the first Shin can mean a prefix letter of that which belongs to. Then you get Ayin Shin Ayin. What Ayin Shin means: to force, compel, produce, accomplish, to do, to make. Ayin Shin Hey. To produce delight. I'm going to play around in here because that's how to get more of the stuff I like, I want. Well, I don't like it enough. Well, do more of it, and then it'll multiply, revive. The way it's designed is that you plant the seed, and the seed turns into the multiplied harvest. That's the way his word works. That's the way the nature works, unless it's been genetically modified. And to see that and realize it and delight it and say, then at that time, Aleph Zion is the next word, and then ALEF-BEIT Tav Yod. Well, the Tav Yod suffix means I have or I will, but ALEF-BEIT means lost. What? Lost? Bet Dalet. See, Aleph could be the prefix. I will. Bet Dalet. It wasn't good that Adam was bad. Bet Dalet. It wasn't Tov that he was cut off, alone, separate, like no other animal. Kavod, Kaf Bet Dalet, like prefix Kaf, Bet Dalet, alone. Nobody else. To be lost and separated. You cut a branch off a tree to use it to make a piece of furniture in your house. That branch has been Bet Daleted from the tree. That's the way the word works. And then you look at the last word in the sentence, Bet Ayin Nun Yod Yod. Well, the final Yod means my, so Ayin Nun Yod is part of another word with a Bet prefix, but Bet Ayin, if you looked at the first two letters, it means to uncover, to swell with desire, to bubble up, or to seek. But Ayin Nun Yod then comes from Ayin Nun Hey, but it's my doing it. It means needy, affliction, humble, oppression, poverty. It's like, this is my problem of getting lost, because Ayin Nun Yod also means interest aroused, occupation, concern, actuality, and relevance. Well, that's like saying, wait a minute, once I realize this becomes my whole world. And what's lost is all the fake stuff that doesn't matter. None of that even matters. Yeah, but did you know? Nah, it's fake news. Well, yeah, but they're trying to yank your chain. They're trying to distract you. They're lying to you so you won't engage this. They told you that when he died on the cross, this law was done away with. It's just not true. From everything I can read, it's Leolam forever. Why would they tell us it's done away with? So what interest is there in what authority to tell millions of people over 2,000 years to not listen to Yahuwah's voice? Our enemy. Once you tell him you'll offend Jesus if you listen to the voice of the Torah, well, you don't want to offend Jesus. He's our loving Savior. Okay, we won't listen to the voice of the Torah. It's a pretty simple equation. Just go back and listen to what Yahweh said. That's what Yeshua wants us to do. He said, my Father, your Father, my Elohim, your Elohim. I only listen to what he says, and I only do what he says. Then I should have the same attitude. Why is the prevailing teaching the opposite? It's not his voice. Pretty simple. It's disturbing once you realize what's going on, but it's pretty simple. Then at that time, I am lost to all those other voices. That's what he's saying. That's why the word abed t. At the time, what time? That I realize my delight is in the Torah of Yahweh as my gymnasium, my playpen, my just play around, just do everything you can there. What do they call it? A jungle gym? I think that's what it was called when we were kids. Verse 93, Leolam, forever, beyond calculation. It's too much that I can even see within the field of view. Lo, Lamed Aleph, that means negative. Aleph Shin Chet, Aleph Shin Kaf Chet. I'm not going to forget forever. I will never forget this forever. Pei Kuf Vav Dalet Yod Kaf. Well, Pei Kuf Dalet, that's fakad, translated precepts. And it's the best way to realize this word is Yeshua's story of the wealthy man who goes away and he leaves talents, as it said, 5 to him, 3 to him, 1 to him. He comes back and says, what'd you do? How'd you invest what I gave you? What you entrusted to me, what you put underneath my command and will hold me accountable for, and will examine what I did with it when you return after a while, and either reward or punish me suitably, depending on what's lacking and what's been increased. That's Pei Kuf Dalet. If you're married to somebody, how do you treat that person? How do you treat your children? How do you treat your pets or your employees? How do you treat your equipment? If somebody said, here, run my car till I'm gone, and you come back and you've ran it out of gas and oil and busted, it's like, oh, come on. So he's entrusted us with something, and he's going to say, what did you do with it? That's Pei Kuf Dalet. Because then David says, Ki, Kaf Yod, because, thus, when, while, therefore, Bet Mem, when, in them, with them. With them what? In the Pei Kuf Dalet, that he's not going to forget forever, Chet Yod Yod Tav Nun Yod. Well, Chet Yod is life. The Nun, the Tav Nun, is to teach us like, I am living because you showed me. See, it goes back on the heels of the previous verse. Once I see this becomes my world. And my life then is going to be, not only now, but for eternity, based on what I did with this insight. In other words, if for 3,000 years nobody had access to these words, and all of a sudden we have access, and all of a sudden the 2,730-year curse is done away with, and all of a sudden we're here, and we go, wow. And you can see what these words mean, and it's right there in these 22 little shapes of letters. Yeah, and what'd you do with it? It wasn't important enough. Yeah, I'll wait and see. I'll just plead forgiveness. I've heard all these. And David said, my life is given to me. My life becomes what it might potentially. Who I am, what I'm going to do for eternity is going to be based on what did I do with what you allowed me to see in your words, of your heart, of your kingdom. What role, who am I to be in your kingdom forever, is going to be affected by my attitude right now, here today, about what you allow me to see in your words, in your commands, in your precepts. I can't forget this. I can't throw this aside. This has to become my obsession. It's really important stuff. Verse 94, Laka ani. Well, Laka, to you, or that which belongs to yours, ani is I am, like the admiral of the ship. I am yours. Laka ani, yours I am. You've got me 100%. Heart and soul. Then the word He Vav Shin Yod Ayin Nun Yod. Shin Yod Ayin, Shia, well, that's the word for salvation, deliverance. You have to look up this word He Vav Shin Yod Ayin. You have to look at the letter He in the dictionary, but basically, the deliverance I look forward to, Shin Ayin Shasha, is also delight. So everything all the benefits that I'm looking forward to, that I think I see in your language, that I hear you saying, the repercussions of what's going to happen once Israel becomes as Israel ought to be, once all your dreams come true, Yahweh, that your people are listening to your voice, what's that going to look like? When's that going to be? Because Pei Kuf Vav Dalet Yod Kaf, that's that word again, Pei Kuf Dalet, Dalet Resh Shin Tav Yod, Darash T, Darashataya. Well, the word drash is seek, study diligently in prayer, in worship, as a request to expound upon, interpret with application following. It's a homiletical sermon. It's the art and science of preaching, which means you've got to analyze, organize, index, orchestrate, fit it all together, and talk about it, and have stuff like this going on, like on this video. So David was writing Psalms 119 about the Yahweh's Pei Kuf Dalet stuff that he allowed him to see. And he's realizing whether or not I experience what you promised me and whether or not I find it a delight is going to be the way that what I put into it. The way I drosh your Pei Kuf Dalet will determine my Shin Yod Ayin, my Shin Ayin, my Shin Vav Ayin, my Shin and Ayin. That puts running the ball into the hands of you, me, present tense, right now. What are you going to do with this? Where are you going to go? I don't know. Bury it in a hole. I don't want to lose it. That's like the guy given the one talent. You don't want to be that guy. He was reprimanded. Verse 95, Lamed Yod, mine, Kuf-Vav. Well, Kuf-Vav is hope. It's also to be stretched tight. It's also to put a string in a point and pull it and make different radius like a target. So you could say, my target, my object, but see, it also means to be collected and gathered, which is around a thing. So my whole target of collecting everything, focusing on what? That's what Kuf-Vav means. Reshin Ayin, that's evil. Yod Mem is plural. Reshin Ayin, the evil, wicked sinners. Lamed, ALEF-BEIT Dalet. See, there's that word ALEF-BEIT Dalet again, which means lost. See, he keeps using the same words in different verses. So Psalm 119, once you learn a bit of the vocabulary, there's very few new words brought in. He keeps readdressing the same words. Wicked, guilty sinners are lost. It's ALEF-BEIT Dalet is also the word for perished, suicide, ruin, loss. They got nothing. People who think they're building their house with lying, stealing, killing, doing wickedness, doing savagery, they're gone. They're already lost. They've already lost the game. They're still tormenting other people, but they've already lost. Ayin Dalet Tav Yod Kaf. Well, Ayin Dalet, that's the word witness and testify, like Moed, which is the appointed times. So that's to be gathered together. So this word, you look it up, it means your community. Your community gathering together, like on Shavuot, like on one of the Moedim or Shabbat. Kuf-Vav Yod, Ku-E, is calling to assemble. So that Australian Aboriginal Ku-E, to call the attention, you can hear it like the sound of the shofar. Called to assemble is makra. That's to be called. Mem kufreshel. I'm just saying, kui and makra are synonym words. Going back to the kufa-vav is the second word in this sentence. And then the last word in this verse, ALEF-TAV bet vav nun nun. Well, tabanit is tav bet nun yod tav. So I'm just saying, if you look at the word and you stare at it, you realize it's the same construct as that word pattern, like Mishkan pattern. There's a building of a pattern, of a paradigm, like Kaf Vav Nun, this is Bet Vav Nun, understanding, intelligence, wisdom, rational, and theoretical. Aleph prefix, I will, the Nun suffix, be at the business of. So here's David saying, this is my activity. This is what I'm going to be about the business of, functioning my brain, developing. And how do you do that? Lameding. Force yourself to write, force yourself to look, to think, to ponder, force yourself to sing, turn it into song, stare at something and analyze, let your mind percolate. That's the business of lameding on purpose so that you can be conformed to the gathering. The kuf is the overview, the mushroom shape, the back of the head, that which follows. There's a promise of what follows. It's in the next letter, resh, to become of the resh status, noble, honored, of dignity. The resh man is the kuf, what follows this process of that word, ALEF-TAV bet vav nun. Bet nun, hey, is to build. Bet nun is son, S-O-N, the child of parents. Bet Yod Nun is to understand Chakma Bina Da'at is understanding and knowledge, and to be about the business of cerebrally functioning and be in confederation, in ayin mem community with others who hear the same call. That's verse 95. Here, verse 96, which is the last verse of this section, Lakal Tachala. Then the word Resh Aleph Yod Tav Yod. Well, as I said before, Resh Aleph Yod is the word for mirror, or to be allowed to see something or perceive. Whether it's I have seen, I have perceived, I've been allowed to see myself. Resh Aleph Yod Tav Yod. QOOF-YOD-TET is the word end, as in summer harvest, but also Yod QOOF-YOD-TET means to awake. Hide the word and seal the book until the time of the end, spelled QOOF-YOD-TET. So is this end of something? If you looked at Kuf is this overview, this back of the head of that which follows. Kuf follows Zadi, but Zadi is the blossoming, the flourishing, the hawk, the bouquet, the aromatic bouquet. What follows, or what's above? Well, the pillar of fire, pillar of smoke, like the letter Kuf, the Q, the question mark, exclamation point, above the Ark of the Covenant. Well, the Ark of the Covenant lines up in the Mishkan pattern with the Zadi. So I'm picturing, lameding, the Mishkan pattern, the Zadi, the Ark of the Covenant, but Zadi is also Yeshua coming out of the grave, Israel coming out of the banishment, curse of ignorance, being overlorded by its enemies, back to Yahweh himself being our Elohim in favor. Then the word Resh Chet Bet Hey. Well, Resh Chet Bet Rachabaha. Well, that's the word Rahab, like Rahab the harlot. There in the city of Jericho, whether or not she was that, she was certainly an innkeeper, and it means Rahab, literally, Resh Het Bet means wide, broad, enlarge, extend, spacious, roomy, generous, vastness, transversal, like, oh, wow. So is it talking about Rahab the woman? Is it talking about her inn, the way she cared for everybody and just tended their needs? Or is it talking about Yahweh restoring his favor to his people like he promised? And then you get the word mitzvot, mitzvotaka ma'ad. That last word, mad, is madly, like crazy, like so much. This is like rachab, madly. But the word your commands. Mem zadi vav. Well, mem zadi aleph, mem zadi hey. That's unleavened bread, to press, squeeze, to squeeze out and have, so it's a dry cracker. It's also to find out how to do what he said. Mem, or Yod Zadi Aleph, is to publish. I'm looking at the meaning of the Zadi, because Mem Zadi Aleph, Mem Zadi Hey. The Zadi is a principal letter at use. The other things are prefixes and suffixes. I'm lameding. Figuring out how to do this reading is that Zadi is the letter that the other letters are about. And so what's Mem Vav Zadi, to press, squeeze? Mem Zadi Zadi, to suck. Hey, that's like the baby in the 2 verses ahead of time. All the baby can do is suck on the shad. But that's not where we're supposed to stay, the milk of the word. We're supposed to get into the meat of the word. Paul talked about that. And what is that? I think it's this stuff. Yod Zadi Tav is to set on fire. Mem Zadi Tav is to kindle, or an igniter. David here is expressing that once he gets this, well, go back to the first 2 words, Lakal Tehillim. So the word Taf, Kaf, Lamed, Hey is actually the color blue. Karen Davis, I tried to find it. I tried to find the song. It's not the title of the song, but I remembered when I was just learning the language and I heard her sing this song, it said something about, it says in the English, the color of your people Israel. But what she was singing was Tehillim Israel. It's like, well, what's Tehillim? Well, that's that blue color. But you won't find that in the lyrics. The lyric says the color of your people. She's not singing the words, the color of your people Israel. Why is blue the color of the people of Israel? Why is blue and white on the present day Israeli flag? What has that got to do? When he says the embroidery, blue, purple, red, white, that color blue is the word Tehillim. And whether the suffix is a hey or tav doesn't matter. Why tav kaf lamed? So if you look at what that means in the dictionary, again, going back to what we talked about last week about kaf lamed, completeness. Well, here, think about this. Why should that be the color of Israel? There's a message. It's a secret code. Blue. What does the color blue mean? Tav prefix, hey or tav suffix, kaf lamed, ta kalata, blue. And whether it's a sky blue, a greenish blue, a purplish blue, a dark blue, it's still Tehillim. Just so you know, there's no, they can say, oh, this is the official Pantone color, but pretty much be any color. This is what kaf lamed, kala, kaf lamed, hey, remember, means bride. So you could say, why the color blue? Because we're supposed to be the bride of YHUH, not just the bride of Christ. Anyway, here, this is what it means. Completeness, purpose, intentions, boundary, limit, end goal. To be complete, to fulfill purpose, perfection, career, to accomplish the archetype of accomplishments, such as for a girl to become a bride. Then you'll see in the Klein's dictionary, it says the word teleological, T-E-L-E-O, logical. Logos or logic is the study of the science of, like eriktology. So the first word here is lakal, meaning of all, or according to the lamed prefix, according to everything. This is the way I was trying to wrap my mind around these two words. Lakal techala, raiti kutz, Rahab matzoteka ma'ad, verse 96. If there's any reason to suspect that what exists does so for a designed reason to accomplish a particular destiny, that's what that means. That's teleological. Defined by the purpose served rather than being defined by the cause by which they arise. In other words, if I'm teleologically going to study the scripture, I can say, why do we have law, mitzvot, mishpat, chok, torot, and it's a bunch of laws? Jesus died on the cross to avoid us of all that. David saw that, oh, these are chet vav kuf, rungs on a ladder. If I do what you said, something happens. What's the upshot? Where's the practical benefit? What's the practical benefit for doing what Yahweh said? Because then everything he said happens. If we do what he said, what he promised happens. If we don't do what he said, the curse happens. Well, what did he say? So there's a few pretty interesting verses. How are we for time, Carla?
You could wrap it. I mean, take your time.
Well, just want to see if we have how much time we have.
We're at about the hour almost.
Pretty close. Okay, last week we talked about this thing in Matthew 6:3, where he says, whenever you give, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. Well, so I looked at that in the Aramaic. I could go into details. I did send it to the on the chat. It should be in the writings. It's on the bottom of the third page here. But I can see where they came up with those words. There's another way to read the exact same words. I myself am the Dan, the Dalet Yod Nun, the judge to determine, Mem Aleph, which is translated whenever, but Mem, remember, what is Mem? Mem is this womb, this place of incubation. I'm the one who decides. Remember, manna means what? Where'd this come from? What's going on? Mem Hey is what? I'm the one who decides what, whoever, whenever, whatever, why for. Dalet Aleph or ayin bet dalet. Dalet prefix in Aramaic belonging to work, worship, serve. I get to decide what worship means. Aleph Nun Tav is the word for I myself. It's translated you, but Aleph Nun Yod is ani. Aleph Nun Kaf Yod I am. Aleph is I will, Nun put into the engagement action. And if Yeshua is saying you, that may be the Aramaic format, but the concept of the consciousness here is I'm deciding what worship is. I'm going to decide how to be your people. I'm going to decide based on the information I have coming in, so which means I have to then choose who's giving me credibility, and I'm going to dump that as the water into my reservoir, which is my mem. I will then Zion Dalet Kuf Tav Aleph. Well, you look in the dictionary, there is no Zion Dalet Kuf. Zion Dalet, like the word Zadim that we talked about a couple weeks ago, means wanton, insolent presumption. I'm going to make up my own stuff or listen to somebody else who made up their own stuff. But Dalet Kuf is the word exact, punctual, accurate, punctilious, exactly the details. Wanton, insolent, presumption. You look in Klein's dictionary because it's an etymological dictionary. Syrian and I think Akkadian said that the word Zion Dalet Kuf is a different way of spelling Zadi Dalet Kuf. That's the word righteous, victory, and deliverance. So here, just like Tet and Tav phonetically can replace each other, just like Kaf and Kuf phonetically and in English can replace each other with the K or the Q, here, just so you know, Zion and Zadi can replace each other, as in the spelling of this word. So they get the word charity because Zadika is charity. Yeah, but in this way of spelling, I can say presuming what's right. I'm going to make up my own rules, my own laws, my own cult religion. That's the opposite of Zadika because Zadika is doing what he said, as in 1 John 3 and, well, 1 John at large. Doing what he said is righteousness. Not doing what he said, that's sin. That's presumption. It's like the next two words, lo tada, not knowing. Don't let your right hand know. You're like, wait a minute, not knowing what? Samik mem lamed kaf. Well, they say that samik mem lamed is left hand. Kaf suffix means your. Do not let your left hand have knowledge. Well, tav dalet ayin, they're translating as reveal. Do not reveal to your left hand. Samik mem lamed, samala, simila. It's a garment like wearing spandex. You can see what you look like. It's similar to your physique. It's also the word that means symbol, likeness, image, and symbolize. It's a garment. It also means left. But see, if you look in the punch up online, what's the Hebrew word for left hand? It's different. It's shin mem aleph lamed. See, so Samik mem lamed Aramaic or shin mem lamed or shin mem aleph lamed, shin mem aleph vav lamed. Again, shin and samik can trade places just like tet and tav and like kaf and kuf. Aleph vav lamed means foolish, to be in front, healthy, sound, and strong. The fool on stage, woohoo, dance around like this. He's the idiot, but he's also strong enough to do it. Shin mem aleph, assess, evaluate. Well, that's the same as shin ayin resh and ayin resh kaf. To be able to look at something and find out what it is, well, that's the word to symbolize, which is an aleph vav tav. So really, not knowing the symbolized assessment of the aleph vav tav, the letters of the alphabet. And I'm trying to lamed here, showing you this lameding of this verse. So it's like those who presume what worship is, how to please Elohim, how to let your voice be heard on high, like it says in Isaiah 58, we're going to pray, we're going to offer sacrifices, we're going to do these things, we're going to raise holy hands, we're going to bind the devil in Jesus' name and plead the blood. None of which I can find the verses in the Tanakh to justify. But then the word mem nun aleph, again, mem nun, that out of which jumps from ALEF-BEIT Dalet Aleph, or Ayin Bet Dalet Aleph, work, worship, and then the last word, Yod Mem Yod Nun Kaf, your right hand. Don't allow your Samic Mem Lamed Mana jumping out from the worship of your right hand. So I said last week, the one way to look at this is to say the things we don't know, the things which are busted up and the things which are confusing. And that's like the word left hand, because it means not strong. If it's foolish or that which is, we're still trying to figure it out. Like, what's the right calendar and how do you, what did he give us? What's the strong right hand? Well, Mem Yod Nun means classify, species, sect. It's also heretic, furrow, split, invent, and lie. In other words, here's the line. You're either on this side or that side. You're either one of us or you're one of them. You're either in our sect, our cult, or you're a heretic. You're either a Christian or a heathen scum. You're either going to go to heaven or burn in hell. It's like, wait a minute, who's making up where they'll draw the line? If you don't have knowledge of Yahweh's Samic Mem Lamed, symbolize the likeness in an image, that's an ALEF-TAV. That's an oath. That's a letter of the alphabet. Yahweh gave us the 22 letters of the alphabet as symbolic orthograms, shapes of drawings that are just like him. That's John 1, the word. And if we have no knowledge of that, we're going to make up all of our own stuff. The first word Aleph Nun Tav, based on Aleph Nun Hey, also Aleph Nun Hey, not only Sephirah Terezra, but it says to bring about a quarrel, to deceive, to overreach, pretext for a quarrel. Why did he stick the tree of the knowledge of good and evil in the garden? Because if there was going to be a quarrel, here's the quarrel. If there's going to be a problem, this is the problem. He designed the whole thing so that this is the very issue. What did he say, or something that he didn't say, or doubt what he said? See, that's the whole problem that I perceive is between the Christians and the Jews. The Jews hold to the Torah. The Christians say that's nailed to the cross. The Christians say, hey, look at Yeshua's the Messiah. And the Jews say, but then why did he do away with that which is forever? He can't be the Messiah. So who can't be the Messiah? JC, the figurehead, archetypal icon of the guy who doesn't validate the Torah. He can't be the Messiah. I agree. But Yahusha, by definition, must validate the Torah. He is the Torah. You can't deny that. So that one new man in that format, neither Jew nor Greek, neither Gentile nor rabbi, male nor female, slave nor free, that following in the guise of that prototype of Yahusha, oh, that we all must become. And you look at Ezekiel 37, when he brings Ephraim and Yehudah back together, and he's going to put one shepherd as their head. If you go back and then look at, I don't have the book here in front of me, Deuteronomy 30, when you guys come back to listen to my voice and shomer my mitzvah, do what I said to do, then I will do all this stuff for you. In Isaiah, or actually Jeremiah, if you look at chapters, let's say 5 through 10 in Jeremiah, I could take the time to read that, take another hour, but here's the point. Jeremiah was written about 500 years after David. David was 1,000 years after Moshe wrote Deuteronomy 30. But David saw that Yahweh gave Israel certain commandments and told them this is the way it works. You do what I say and all this stuff happens. You don't do what I say and here's all the other stuff that's going to happen. And he brings in the chaos. We'll talk about that next week. He brings in the enemy. Nature starts working against you. Your cities crumble. Your culture is destroyed. other people ravage the labor of your hands gets stolen. How do you change it? How do you change the look? Change your face in the mirror, your disposition towards what Yahweh said. Start practicing exactly what he said to do repeatedly. Ayin Vav Dalet. Again and again, repeatedly, forcefully. It can't fail. It doesn't matter how many times in the past. It's good today. Just start doing what he said today. What did he say? I'm not sure. Well, you don't have to dig up what did they decree at the council in Nicaea. Just open up the Torah and start learning what those words mean. You can do it yourself. You don't even need to have a teacher. It's key to the Mishkan pattern. Very simple. You can change the world. Where's the practical advantage in doing this? All creation, as it says, stands on their tiptoe, ready to just exhilarate when Israel starts behaving like Israel. But Israel was held in bondage. You know, one of the stars is, I think, Andromeda, the chained woman, the queen shackled. You know, she can't. I think one of the assistant is Coma, unless that's with Betula. But the point is, the beautiful queen is in chains until when? See, if that's a picture of the constellation, what's it mean? That's Israel being held, trapped by the curse. Until what? Well, 2007, a 30-year curse is over, but Israel has to come back to listen. So as soon as Israel listens to the voice of Yahuwah and does what the voice said, and then he goes on to say, with all your heart and all your soul, v'kol avivka, uvekol nafsheka, uvekol meodeka, with all your madly. And that you can design with proactive intention to compose yourself as the freed woman of Yahweh's love, that he's been waiting, and the angels have been waiting, and nature has been waiting, and all the cultures on the face of the earth will rock as if some earthquake or some asteroid has hit the planet when Israel does that. But we've not been told. But David saw it, and I can see it. And Yahweh said it. And when David said, I love this stuff, is because he found the secret code. So think about it. I did a recording back at Shavuot in Ohio, I think it was 2017, about this subject. What if you could read the articles of the Mishkan in a whole different way so that you saw them differently? I tried to present them as a different way, as if you were reading a secret code. Just contemplate for yourself. We can talk about it next week. But what is the code saying? There's a fence, a barbecue grill, a pool of water. Then there's a covered place, and in the covered place is a lamp, a table that has some bread arranged on it, an altar of incense, and then there's a sequestered place where there's a treasure box, Ark of the Covenant. What does that mean? If you could read that, what does that mean? Ponder that, contemplate that. We can talk about it next week. Anyway, we should probably stop here, Carla. You want to? Yahweh, please favor us with giving us your heart, your mind, your voice. Help us to hear your voice, to know your voice, to get it. Help us to grok your ruach. We want to be your people. We want to be your thrill. We want to be your shasha, your chafatz, your chamod. Thank you for giving us here and now this dar at this time. May we live into your wildest dreams of expectation for who we are. Thank you for this day of Shavuot. We've counted, and here we are. Did that come through? Maybe. Anyway, Shalom
No,
Aleichem.
it did not.
Oh.
Till
All right. Shalom Aleichem.